What's up guys, welcome back to another video here at Achieve Academy, and today we'll be going through drawing cubic and reciprocal graphs. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, because I promise you it is this easy. Our learning outcomes for today is to understand what a cubic and reciprocal graph really is and how to draw them. And also to solve cubic and reciprocal graph exam questions. So, what are cubic and reciprocal graphs? At a grade 5 level, you need to know the basics of other types of graphs, cubic and reciprocals. You'll be asked to draw them and fill out tables of values for each graph. In this lesson, we will focus on drawing cubic and reciprocal graphs and learn the do's and don'ts when sketching them. First, let's have a look at cubic graphs. Cubic graphs are when we have a variable that is cubed, such as x cubed. Cubic graphs can have up to 3 solutions, and if they do, they'll have both a minimum and a maximum point, such as the arrow shows here. The maximum being the highest one and the minimum being the lowest. Like when we sketch quadratics, it must be drawn as one continuous line and cannot be feathered. Now let's have a look at reciprocal graphs. Reciprocal graphs are when we have y equals 1 over x. The important piece of a reciprocal graph is that they mustn't curve back on itself, and that they don't intersect their asymptotes. In this instance, it's the x-axis and the y-axis, as they don't intersect. The reason of this being is if we had 1 over x, the only way that it could intersect both our x and y axis is x would be 0. But 1 over 0 isn't a real thing, so it will never intersect. Once again, it's that time to have a go at some Maths Genie exam questions. Have a go, pause the video, and unpause when you've done. So, here are 9 graphs. Write down the letter of the graph that could have the equation y equals 3x minus 2, y equals 2x squared minus 5x minus 3, and y equals 3 over x. And the way we're going to do this is, by which we think is right, we'll cross off the ones which are wrong. So first, let's have a look at y equals 3x minus 2. It is positive 3x, so we know that it is a straight line, because it's not squared or reciprocal, but it can't be negative. So it can't be e, and it can't be c. So the only other straight line it can be is h. So our answer is h. And now we will cross this off. Now in our second one, y equals 2x squared minus 5x minus 3, we know that it's going to be a quadratic graph. So let's get rid of this cubic graph. We know it can't be this. And then we're looking at d, I, and b here. We know it's not b, as it's not negative 2x squared, so we can get rid of that. And now we look at d and I. Now, if we look at I, we can see that its 2 roots are both behind in the negative region of the x-axis. And on d, one is in the negative and one is in the positive. If we use some basic maths, we know a negative and a negative will get us a positive, but a negative times a positive will give us a negative. So it can't be I, because if we look at minus 3, it is minus 3, not positive 3. And the only way it could be positive 3, say they're both positive or they're both negative, the only way it can be negative 3 is as a positive and a negative. So our answer is D. So now we can cross them 2 off. Now as we cross these 2 off, we're looking at y equals 3 over x. And we have graph A and we have graph F. If you look at graph F, this is a negative reciprocal. So we get rid of that, and our final answer would be A. Now let's go over some of the key points of our sketches. Make sure that all your sketches are completed in pencil, as you can correct your sketches if they're wrong. Make sure your sketches are not feathered when you draw them. It should be one continuous line, because you will not get the mark for your graph if your graph is feathered. And that your curves do not go back on themselves. Say if you have a quadratic graph or a reciprocal graph and it goes back on itself, you will lose marks because you've not drawn it correctly. That links to another point of your reciprocal graphs shouldn't go back on themselves and shouldn't end up being a flat straight line. So when I've drawn a reciprocal graph and we got to the bottom, it shouldn't curve down and then go flat, because that's wrong. It should slowly decline and incline. Here is another exam question for you to have a go at. Have a go, pause the video, and unpause when you've done. So, Part A of the question, we're asked to complete the table of values for y equals x cubed minus 3x plus 2. Using the table of values on the calculator showed you in our last lesson, we can simply fill them out. So minus 3 would be minus 16, minus 2, 0, minus 1, 4, 0, 2, 1, 0, 2, 4, and 3, 20. And then our x's, you draw them on your graph, and it should look something like this. Now, as we're drawing it here, we simply just sketch our graph. And it should look something like that. As you can see, this is one continuous line, and it doesn't curve back on itself. So this will get you the marks. It doesn't have to be perfect all the time, but if it doesn't curve back on itself and it's all continuous, you'll probably get the marks. Now it's time to have a go at some of the hardest exam questions you'll probably be asked on drawing cubic or reciprocal graphs. Have a go, pause the video, and then pause when you... So, part A of the question, we're asked to complete a table of values for y equals 6 over x. Sadly, you can't use your table of values button on your calculator, you're just going to have to sub them in and then work it out that way. But you can use your calculator to sub them in, so don't worry. So first, we have 0.5, so it's going to be 12, 1 would be 6, 1.5 would be 4, 2 would be 3, 3 would be 2, 4 would be 1.5, 5 would be 1.2, and 6 would be 1. Now we put all our x's on the graph to get the reciprocal looking graph like this. Now, as we've done all this, we simply draw the curve. As you can see, my curve doesn't curve back on itself, and it carries on going down. It doesn't go flat at the bottom or at the top. So this would get you the marks, and this is what your graph should look like. Here is another question for you to have a go at of reciprocal graphs. Have a go, pause the video, and then pause what you've done. So before we begin, this will be on a calculator paper, so make sure you use a calculator working it out. So part A, we have to complete the table of values for y equals x plus 1 over x. 0.2 would be 5.2, 0.4 would be 2.9, 0.6, 2.27, and this is the two decimal places. 0.8 would be 2.05, 1 would be 2, 2 would be 2.5, 4 would be 4.25, and 5 would be 5.2. Now, we plot all our x's on our graph below. And it should look like this. And then once you've plotted all your x's on your graph, you simply draw the curve. What should look something like that. The reason it's not a proper reciprocal curve you may think of like that is the reason being we've done x plus the 1 over x. So it's not the actual reciprocal graph such as this, because we plus the x to it, moving the values across. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of today's lesson. And I did say it was that easy. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.